Warning, the following content may cause Dallas Cowboys fans to have nightmares. Viewer discretion is advised. Congratulations, Jerry Jones, and to the fans of the Dallas Cowboys. You get to once again watch another NFC Championship game from the comfort of your own home. But only this time, it is a cruel twist of fate. You get to suffer in your own misery because, after all, misery loves company. And how fitting. It's two arch rivals in the NFC East facing each other in the conference title game. It'll be the Philadelphia Eagles facing the Washington Commanders. Next year, it will be 30 years since so-called America's team has won the NFC title game and has won their last Super Bowl. Since the 95-96 season, when they last won the Super Bowl, year after year, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys have given their fans a glimmer of hope, thinking that year after year, this is our year, this is our time to shine, we them boys, we're gonna win another Super Bowl.
Nope.
And in the playoffs, in a big spot when it matters the most, you piss it all away. Like I said back in November, as long as Jerry Jones is the team president and owner of this organization, the Cowboys will never ever win another Lombardi trophy ever again.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Our Nation Sports Show. The Divisional Round had a little bit of everything this year in the NFL playoffs. From games going down to the final minutes of regulation, to shocking upsets that nobody saw coming. Tonight on the Nation Sports Show, we analyze all of the action that took place in the Divisional Round. Also tonight, we bring to you the latest breaking news in the National Football League. On Monday, it was announced that the Chicago Bears have acquired their next head coach. Ben Johnson, the former offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, is now the new head coach in Chicago. Tonight, we also bring to you our predictions and previews of Championship Sunday. Who will be the two teams to punch their ticket to Super Bowl 59 in the Big Easy? It's win or go home. Who will seize control and be one step closer to football immortality on a collision course with destiny?
From the gridiron to the court, talking all that is sport, breaking down the latest news, scores, and more. Welcome to our Nation Sports Show.
It's a Tuesday. You know what that means on this frigid, cold night here in North Carolina. It is another edition of our Nation Sports Show live here on YouTube. What is going on here, everybody? I am your host for this evening, Stephen Wyand. And before I get to my co-host for this evening, on this frigid, cold night here in the South region of the United States of America, we got to plug the social media platforms. Up first on Twitter at @ON_sports show. Facebook.com/Your Nation Sports Show, where we are live here on YouTube at YouTube.com/Our Nation Sports Show. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff to your family and your friends that love the world of sports just as much as we do. And we are so excited to be here. We are warm here in our houses because we are not going outside because, baby, it sure is hell is cold outside. And hope everybody is having a great night, having a great, fantastic evening with your family and your friends. And please, everybody, if you're out in the middle of this storm across the world, please stay safe because I know New Orleans got pelted with snow for the first time since the '60s. I mean, they haven't seen snow in so many years, and some of them never probably have ever seen snow. You know, if you're born after that time in the '60s. But everybody out there in Texas and Georgia and wherever you may be, stay safe, stay warm, and we're going to keep you company. And so excited to be here today. And joining me right here, right now, he's very ecstatic. He's very excited because unlike the Dallas Cowboys, his team is going to the NFC Championship game for the very first time since 1992. The Washington Commanders. Yes, I am not stuttering. The Washington Commanders are in the NFC Championship game. And here's my ecstatic brother from another mother, JT Joey Thornton. What's going on, man? Oh, dude, I set you up pretty with a nice intro, and you blew it. You had it all,
Sorry.
and you blew it.
Sorry, my bad. I forgot my mic was on mute. But anyway, what's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's having an amazing Tuesday. And if you're like me and Steven here in North Carolina, I hope you're staying warm because, well, it's cold out there. And it's snowy for a change.
Starting to snow here as well.
So yeah, I hope you're staying warm. But yeah, the weather may be cold outside, but right here on YouTube, it is red hot. Because we got
Yes,
some
it
stuff to
is.
talk about. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Yes, let's get into it, folks. I mean, before we get to the football action, some breaking news came down yesterday in the National Football League, and that is Ben Johnson, the former offensive coordinator now of the Detroit Lions, is now the new head man in Chi-Town in Chicago. Yes, that is right. Following the shocking loss to the Commanders for Detroit being the number one seed in the NFC, Ben Johnson has now been acquired as the new head coach in Chicago. And this was kind of not surprising because he's been cornered by teams to be interviewed and stuff like that. But what is a little surprising to me is that he left considering they have not yet made the Super Bowl. I said on the show and off the show, I said I think Johnson would go to another organization if the Lions reached and won the Super Bowl. So I'm not surprised in a way that he has left Detroit. But as we all know, Joey, the track record of these offensive coordinators going to other teams and being head coaches, predominantly, it does not work out. What are your thoughts on this hiring by Chicago? Good move or bad move? Oh, anyways, I think that this move is.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
my bad. My bad. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, yeah, this could be looked at in a couple different ways because Ben Johnson has been on every NFL team's radar for quite some time now when it comes to being a head coach because, I mean, you gotta admit, Ben Johnson is an offensive mastermind.
Yep.
And now, I mean, I watched an intro video of him earlier today when he and his family were walking into the Chicago Bears facility, and he himself said this is exactly where we wanted to be as far as being a head coach because he gets to stay in the NFC North where he is very familiar with all the teams in the NFC North. But something in me kind of says this might be a far-fetched hire. Because, yes, I get it. Caleb Williams, who was the number one overall pick, is the starter. And Ben Johnson was very intrigued by that. But even though Caleb Williams was able to put up some great numbers, the team couldn't. I mean, yes, his receivers did what they could, the running backs did what they could, the defense did what they could. But in the end, I mean, it wasn't enough because, I mean, this is the same Chicago Bears team that literally lost on a Hail Mary earlier this year. And then after that, lost 7 other consecutive games in a row, pretty much derailing any hopes of them ever, and I mean ever, going to the playoffs. And as good a hire as this may be, I still have my questions.
So do I.
Mainly, I would say my main question, though, is Ben Johnson is an offensive mastermind, as I mentioned earlier. But now that he's the head coach, he's going to have to focus on the defensive side or the defensive aspect of the team as well. And his defensive coordinator will be able to take care of most of it, but Ben Johnson still has to have a say because he's the head coach. What he says goes. But it just really makes me wonder how much Ben Johnson knows about a defense. Because when he was on the sidelines this past Saturday in Ford Field for the Detroit Lions, he saw his defense, Aaron Glenn's defense, might I add, look absolutely putrid after dominating all season. And yes, I get it. Injuries happen in football. But one thing that we have always said whenever an injury takes place, next man up. You gotta make sure you have other players ready just in case the worst is to happen. And I mean, yes, we did beat Detroit, which of course we'll get into that later on whenever we do our review of the divisional round. But it came at a price because we lost our left tackle Sam Cosmi for the rest of the season because he tore his ACL after somebody rolled into his leg. So, and I mean, like I said, injuries happen. But luckily, we had a veteran named Trent Scott who was able to take Cosby's place and actually do a pretty decent job because he didn't allow any pressures, he didn't allow any sacks, he was on his blocking whenever he needed to be. I mean, it was just an all-around great performance by Trent Scott. So I give all kudos to him. I mean, I know having Sam Cosmi is going to hurt us, and not having Sam Cosmi is going to hurt us. But I still think we can be the team to beat on occasions. But going back to Ben Johnson, I mean, yeah, this is a great hire for Chicago, and I wish them the best of luck. But until Ben Johnson knows how to run a defense as well as an offense, it just makes you wonder how he's going to do in his first season.
I agree because as we all know, we've seen like the Colts with the hiring of the Eagles offensive coordinator back in 22 after they lost the Super Bowl to the Chiefs, and how we have seen other coordinators over the years that have gone from being offensive coordinators to being the head coaches, how they have not flourished as head coaches, such as obviously Nathaniel Hackett and obviously your offensive coordinator for the Commanders. Because offensive coordinators that do head coaching jobs, only thing that OCs know is offensive schemes. They can run the offensive side of the football, but where they don't, fundamentally pick up on is defensive schemes. That's why to me, defensive coordinators running into head coaching jobs are kind of the more ones that are more successful, or assistant coaches. Andy Reid and Bill Belichick and, stuff like, coaches like that. Because I just think, is Ben Johnson a fine offensive coach? Sure he is. That's why he got the gig. Because Caleb Williams and all of those guys in Chicago that are skilled players, like, he's got some skilled players, to run offense, through. But the question that I also have for you, Joey, is, can this offensive scheme that he ran with Detroit with Jared Goff and Gibbs and Montgomery and St. Brown, can this offensive scheme work in Chicago? Because he's not a normal, coach. Like, he likes to run a lot of trickery plays.
Yeah, that is very true. Because, we saw some of those trick plays that Detroit tried to pull Saturday night, and some of them worked, but some of them, not so good.
No. Such as the Jameson Williams interception.
Yeah. Now, the reverse end around, which Jameson Williams wound up with the ball and took off for that 60-something yard touchdown. Now that play worked. But sometimes trickery is not what all it amounts to be.
Very much so. Because, and might as well segue into the divisional games from this past weekend, because we're already kind of talking about Detroit and Washington. But the Lions in this game were heavily favored to win this game. And Jared Goff and company, looked pretty good. And then the Commanders just smacked them in the face. Jared Goff during this game had a couple of interceptions that were very, very bad. And also what was very bad, one of those INTs returned for a pick six. But I was talking to my friend Don afterwards after the game was over, and he said to me that he thinks that something was wrong with Goff. And I'll ask you this, Joey, do you think was there something visibly wrong with Goff when he got clobbered on that interception return for the touchdown? Because I think that maybe when he got nailed on that return play for the touchdown, I think there was something wrong with his faculties, because, I don't think he was fully there.
There looked to be something a little bit wrong with Jared Goff after he got popped by Frankie Louvu during the Quan Martin pick six. But you also got to look back to before that pick six even happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jared Goff, yes, he was sharp on some of his throws, especially that diving touchdown catch by Sam Laporta, which gave Detroit their last lead of the night. But even though Jared Goff was able to make some good throws beforehand, he still looked a little bit off, if you ask me. Because it's almost like that offensive line that had been doing so well at various points during the season just collapsed out of nowhere. Because Goff was getting pressured for the majority of the night. The first quarter, he lost that fumble in the red zone. He got sacked a handful of times. He threw those 3 interceptions, including 2 in the first half. So, Goff, don't get me wrong. Goff is a great quarterback. And I still think that, all in all, Detroit was the winner of the Goff-Stafford trade from years ago. Because Jared Goff is still a young gun. He still has a good number of years left in him.
Right.
And he has just now had some superstar players to play around him, like Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, otherwise known as Sonic and Knuckles. And you got also 3 elite pass-catching receivers in Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, and of course tight end Sam Laporta. I mean, so Jared Goff has playmakers around him. And they did all that they could despite Goff's struggles. And that just lets you know that a quarterback is the captain of the team, or is seen as the unbeknownst leader of a team. But when you have other players around you that can make plays on the ball whenever they need to, that lets you know that your quarterback doesn't always have to be in good hands. It's highly recommended, but not necessary.
And also, as well, to add to this, when it comes to Saturday's game, the defensive side of the ball, and I had the weirdest of feelings in this postseason with Detroit. I thought it was going to occur in the championship game, but it occurred on Saturday night at Ford Field against the Commanders. Because here's Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator for the Commanders. He is throwing all caution to the wind, saying, the hell with it, go for it. Jaden Daniels, Scary Terry McLaurin, Robinson and company are just playing loose and fancy free, on the offensive end. And, during the breaks, it was pointed out by radio sideline reporter Laura Oatman that Laura said that the Commander players, they were having fun. They're on the sidelines. They were dancing. They were bobbing to the music. And there was no pressure on them. And you could just tell that Detroit's players on the offense and the defensive side of the ball they were up. They were tense. They were feeling the pressure. This magnum opus of hosting a divisional playoff game, which they have never done. They never done as the number 1 seed. Never had they been a number 1 seed. And this was Detroit's best regular season in their franchise's history. And during this game, the defensive end of the ball finally came to bite Detroit in the worst possible ways. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
I mean, when you look at the defensive side of the ball, injuries kept occurring in this game. You had secondary players, you had rookie players that have never played with one another, not for a long period of time, that were thrown into the wolves, that were thrown into the infernos, burning. And they could not handle the heat in the kitchen. And when it comes to the mistakes that the Lions players made on the defensive side of the football, it hurt them at crucial points during this game, whether it be not getting off the field on 3rd down, giving up multiple conversions on 3rd down, multiple 4th downs, with the exception of 1 4th down when Marcus Mariota was going to take the ball to Daniels, like you said, right, and get that 1st down. But obviously that play blew up. But after that, the Commanders kept converting on 4th downs left and right, and 3rd down conversions and long 3rd down conversions. Jaden Daniels was throwing some incredible spiraling balls to his receivers. And there was also, during this game, missed tackle after missed tackle.
Absolutely. And Jaden Daniels, the dude was on his game. 70% completion percentage, 299 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and 242 of his passing yards came in the first half, mainly because of the 58-yard screen pass touchdown from Terry McLaurin, and not to mention that deep ball to De'Ami Brown that he literally put right on the money. he has made those kind of throws all season long. And that just lets you know that Jaden Daniels is somebody special. And I was listening to a bunch of videos yesterday, and they were talking about the performance by the Commanders against the Lions. And Rex Ryan himself, I remember what he said word for word, and it just took me by surprise. Rex Ryan himself said that Jaden Daniels is going to be a guy that you're going to see in the playoffs for at least the next 10 years. And honestly, he's got a point. I mean, Jaden Daniels has done so much in his rookie season that he's even got the support of fellow Houston Texan C.J. Stroud. I mean, C.J. Stroud and Jaden Daniels, they grew up together in San Bernardino, California. They grew up together. So they go back many, many years. And Jaden Daniels, I remember somebody put a snapshot of this on Facebook. Jaden Daniels sent out a tweet back in 2014. I believe it was either in April or July, whichever one it was. But he said, one day, you're going to hear my name everywhere. And that's exactly what is happening right now. Everybody is talking about how amazing of a quarterback Jaden Daniels is. And despite all of the rookie quarterbacks that we have seen over the past several years, unless somebody convinces me otherwise, this, in my opinion, is the best rookie season for a quarterback ever. Ever.
Jaden Daniels is playing at an elite level at such a young age. The kid is only 22 years old. And the fact that he is in his first conference title game, in his first year as a professional starting quarterback, it is absolutely insane. And you know, come next season, Washington is going to be on a lot of primetime games. It is amazing what this kid has done for this organization. They have gone through so many quarterbacks, over the last 19 plus years. Or hell, even the last 30 some odd years. They have gone through so much hell. I mean, they have not made it to the conference title game since 1991-92 season when they went to the last Super Bowl and won. Ever since then, they have had slim shots at making the playoffs and made it, but they were usually first-round exits. And then there was years where they didn't even get close to making it into the playoffs. And the last time that your team outright made the playoffs was when Robert Griffin III was the quarterback for the Redskins at that time. Obviously, they were known for all those years when he took the Redskins to the playoffs in 2012 and led them to their 12-win season that year.
Yeah. And of course, this is our first year in the playoffs since the COVID year 2020. But even then, we went to the playoffs with a losing record. We literally went 7-8-1.
Yep.
And we still won the NFC East.
It shows it's amazing what this kid has done. He has created hope for these young players in Washington, surrounding him. And Josh Harris and company on their ownership. Oh, they have ridden themselves from the cancer that is Dan Snyder, who ran this team into the ground. And I truly believe, Joey, that Hail Mary against Chicago, that was the signal that, hey, this team can be something special. Because what this team has done, it is amazing how even sometimes when you wait in the corners of the basement, suffering through bad teams after bad teams, sometimes it takes you years to find that pot of gold. But when you do, you can't get enough of it because it is amazing what this kid has done. I mean, going through his highlights from this past season, including that one hell of a debut on Monday Night Football against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Exactly.
And if you're Detroit, and another big thing for Detroit that happened in this game, one of the biggest mistakes they made was the 4th and 2 play when they had 12 men on the field on the defensive side of the ball. If there was not 12 men on the field, the Commanders were going to be forced to kick a field goal because the flag was thrown, presumably for delay of game. And you're thinking, wow, that's big, going from possibly up 10 to only up 6, and Detroit still has has life. But nope. 12th man on the field, flag thrown on the field. They were called for it. They were trying to get, one of the coaches was trying to yell, one of the players trying to yell, hey, get that 12th guy out the field. Too little, too late. Flag was thrown, busted, caught.
Yeah.
And the Commanders capitalized. And look, I don't have a dog in the fight. My team, San Francisco, is out of the playoffs. Didn't even make the playoffs. But damn it, I'm a football fan first and foremost, and I'm happy that your team, Bo's team, is going somewhere. And this is an amazing ride. You guys have not seen success for this organization in God knows how long. And to have this rousing success, it is truly amazing to see this happening. And like I said, come next season, the Commanders will be on a lot of primetime games. And as far as Detroit is concerned, look. Jared Goff, I can't blame the man. In that press conference, he sounded defeated. Of course he was, because he was devastated. He was heartbroken that he couldn't lead the Lions to the NFC Championship game. Because as we all know, Detroit had their best year as a franchise. 15 wins. All out the door. Gone. Eliminated. This is why I love the NFL playoffs. Because it's not like the NBA Finals. It's not like the World Series. It's not like any series, playoff, division series or championship series in baseball or playoff series in hockey or the Stanley Cup Finals. You name it. This is the one thing about the NFL that I love, and also that I love about the March Madness basketball tournament in March. One and done. You're in or you're out. And Detroit, they'll be back. They will be back. But they're going to have a new offensive coordinator and more than likely a new defensive coordinator because as you were telling me that the Jets have the Lions defensive coordinator in the building for an interview. They don't want him to leave the building. They don't want him to leave the building. They want to interview him. And I think that the Lions are going to have to be looking for new DCs and OCs. And that's just the way it works. But congratulations to the Commanders for punching their ticket to the NFC Championship game. And since we're keeping things in the NFC side of things, switching over to Sunday's game in snowy, frigid Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles, led by one of the greatest running backs at his position, Saquon Barkley, or in this case, Saquon Barkley. Barkley was electrifying in this game. Jalen Hurts, again, when he had his moments where he made some plays, but every time Saquon Barkley got that football, you knew he was destined to make a play in this game. And he made some and then some. Multi 60-plus yard TDs in this game. Over 200 yards rushing. 62-yard rushing touchdown. And then the ice literally on the cake. A 78-yard touchdown run. And got to give credit to Matthew Stafford, the Cooper Cup, to Puka Nacua and company, and Tyler Higbee and company, because they hung in. This young, also the young, defensive unit of the Rams hung in too, because they made plays when they needed to, and they minimized the passing game with Jalen Hurts as much as they could. But there's no way they can stop Saquon Barkley, because Barkley's just that good. When he finds a wide open lane to run through, he's going to make you pay. And the Rams, they made some plays during this game, but where they really hurt themselves is multiple turnovers in this game. And also the snow played a huge pivotal role in this game, because having these frigid conditions on the football field, it makes it very unpredictable for these players playing on the gridiron, because when you're playing in snowy conditions, that ball can be slick and it can be bouncing anywhere and everywhere. And boy, it did. I mean, just the way that the Rams were playing in this game, it was I'm like, man, if there was not snow, and I thought they had a chance to win this game. But they hung in there. They were making plays. They were fighting like hell to stay in the game. And Matthew Stafford, I mean, listen, I've always compared him to Brett Favre, being a gunslinger. Because Matthew Stafford, during his days in Detroit, and since he's been with Los Angeles, no matter if he throws 2 picks, 3 picks, hell, even 4 picks, Matthew Stafford is constantly slinging that football, trying to make a play. And there was a point when Barkley scored that 78-yard touchdown. I texted you guys in our chat and said, I said, fellas, this is it. Saquon Barkley's called game. It's over. It's over. It's done. Nope. Matthew Stafford and them made it a game, and the defense held Philadelphia on the offensive end to get the offense back the ball, and the Rams scored a touchdown to get the winning a single possession, and they got the ball back again. And they made things interesting, because the Rams drove the ball into Philadelphia territory and made Eagles fans in Pennsylvania and everywhere about piss themselves in that fourth quarter, because Matthew Stafford and company were making some gigantic plays in this game, pushing the ball into Philadelphia's red zone, and had a clear shot at victory. But as we all know, during that game, that did not happen. Because in one flick of a snap and sack by Carter for the Eagles, pushed the Rams in further back from the sticks and a little closer out of the red zone and out of the end zone. They were still in distance to throw a possible touchdown, but obviously you want to be a little bit closer. And if that sack doesn't happen, I think the Rams had a shot to win this game. But got to give them credit. Got to give them credit, for fighting, for making this interesting. And, also as well, I mean, we touched upon it last week. And again, our thoughts and our prayers go out to the families in and around the LA and surrounding areas in California that are still dealing with these fires in Los Angeles and California. It's crazy, And the Rams, they no matter what, they fought their asses off, and they tried so hard, and that's all you want. You want a team that's gonna hang in there and try to make plays. And the way this game was going, it was anybody's game. But I really think that the weather played a huge part in this game. Joey, what do you think? What do you think that the weather played a huge part in how the turnovers were happening in this game? Okay, moving on. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I really think Stafford is on the top tier list when it comes to quarterbacks that don't really fumble the ball. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, interceptions, that's a whole different story, because those really can't be prevented. If they happen, they happen. But, yeah, the fact that the Rams kept fumbling the ball, and Stafford, literally in that drive in the fourth quarter, actually that last drive of theirs in the fourth quarter, he literally put that ball on the ground. It's almost like the ball just slipped out of his hand. And honestly, I mean, yeah, the snow did play quite a factor in that. But even so, those two teams combined to put 50 points on the scoreboard. So you can't really blame the snow that much. But I mean, it was still a great game. No, it was still a great game nonetheless.
Agree. Agree. No matter what, no matter how cold it was still a very highly entertaining game. And congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles of winning this game and moving on to the NFC title game. And yes, for those that heard it already and those that hear it later on, yes, as you can tell, once again, I made fun of the Cowboys. Sorry, not sorry.
And I mean, yeah, if you really want to get under Dallas' skin, just look at my screen name. A Dallas fan's worst nightmare.
Yep, exactamundo. And
only in this case, that so-called worst nightmare is a reality.
It's not just a figurative nightmare, it's a literal nightmare because the Cowboys fans are going to have to watch the Eagles and the Commanders face each other in the NFC title game. Two teams that went all in at making the necessary moves to be in this pivotal role on the doorstep
look at you
of being in the Super Bowl.
Tossing the AEW reference in there.
And not just that, but Jerry Jones saying, all in, we're all in, we're all in. Nope. Moving on to the AFC side of things, and the Kansas City Chiefs have beaten the Texans once again. And oh, by the way, there were some very controversial calls in this game. Joey, what are your thoughts on this? Because I know we talked about this, and a lot of people on social media have pointed out, and even Troy Aikman has pointed out, these bad calls that went against the Texans. Now, mind you, before I get to you, I think that regardless, even if the bad calls didn't happen, the Texans were not winning this game. They were not. But the bad calls doesn't help either, because the Texans were driving at times and getting in the good positions to score touchdowns or to get the Chiefs off the field. And time after time, just like that, flag, 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 flag.
Trying to do my math here.
It was so bad. The officiating was so bad in this game. So bad. I mean, Mahomes slides. He slides down. Oh, roughing the passer. Nope, can't do that. Can't hit Mahomes. And then just the god-awful pass interferences that were called. And we'll get to the Ravens and Bills on that one too. But there were some bad calls on that game too. But the officiating in this game was so bad. Even Troy Aikman during the game was like, come on. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? I mean, just the officiating in this game was just so god-awful. I mean, just every time the Texans had a shot to get the ball back or to make moves down the field, they were getting called for holding or on the defensive end holding or pass interference or roughing the passer, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, those are some very interesting points, but tell me this, Steven. Do you think $1 million would be enough for a check to pay off some referees?
I don't think just
because that is exactly what takes place every single time the Chiefs step on the field. It's almost like Patrick Mahomes has a freaking invisible force field that nobody can penetrate. If somebody even lays a finger on that force field, it doesn't have to be Mahomes, but if somebody even lays a finger on that impenetrable force field, boom, roughing the passer penalty. Boom, roughing the passer penalty. Boom, roughing the passer penalty.
Real quick, Joe, let me ask you this. Would you say that these roughing the passer penalties and all this different stuff from Mahomes, is this worse than Brady? Because we know Brady.
Big time. Big time, because Tom Brady, he got his gut clocked on occasions, but back then, whenever Tom Brady was in his prime, that was that smash mouth, bring your A game football to where you got knocked all over the place.
Now we know that Brady got his fair share of calls that went against other teams' ways, like with Tampa when he was with Tampa or the Patriots. Obviously, he did get his fair share of calls and a lot of calls that went his way. But I have never seen a magnitude of roughing the passer penalties that have been called like they have in these Chiefs games.
Exactly. And
And I'm
Patrick
not.
Mahomes. Exactly. And Patrick Mahomes, he needs to realize that this is the NFL. You're going to get your gut clocked on occasions. And these referees need to understand that just because you put a finger on a quarterback doesn't mean you do or throw 15-yard penalties on the defense.
Because think about this too. Like, think about this. There was one time he got hit, and like he turned and looked for the call. I mean, again, I understand, and I'm not discrediting what Mahomes has done in the NFL, because what he has done, it is on a Brady-esque level. He's already won 3 Super Bowls. He's chasing that 4th Super Bowl title. He's also chasing history, possibly being the first team to three-peat as Super Bowl champions. But when you have bad officiating, it makes you just aggravated every time the Chiefs take the field. Because you know the officiating crew is going to make their mark on the game. And that's the one thing you don't want in the NFL is the officials. And this also happened, like I said, during the Bills and Ravens game. But we'll get to that one too in a little bit. But this also happened during that game, and this happened multiple times during this Texans game. And I really, truly think that the officials at times have ruined these games. And this is not the Chiefs' fault. I'm not putting the blame on the Chiefs. I'm putting the blame on the officiating crew.
But yeah, despite all of the success that Mahomes has had in his NFL career up to this point, I mean, I brought this up the other night when we were talking on the phone, Steven, and that is the fact that Mahomes has statistically had the worst season of his NFL career. Because the Chiefs, they played in, get this, they won 11 games this year that were decided by one possession.
And also,
11 games this year decided by one possession, and any one of those 11 games could have gone the other way. So the Chiefs better be thanking their lucky stars. But let me tell you one thing. Yes, they're playing at home on Sunday. Yes, they're playing a quarterback who has had his struggles in the divisional round and the conference championship. And yes, you have a quarterback that has won 3 Super Bowls, including 2 in a row. But the Chiefs dynasty has become putrid. It has become putrid in my eyes. Because this Kansas City Chiefs team reminds me of the early New York Yankee teams in baseball. They never lost. They never lost. And if they did, it wasn't a blowout. It was, a run here, a run there, this and that, yada, yada, yada. But eventually, a dynasty must come crashing down. And this is the year that it's going to happen. I mean, Kansas City has won over a lot of fans. But there are also some fans that want to see them fail. Myself included. Because the Chiefs have ruled the NFL for far too long. It is time for them to come crashing back down to earth. At least in my opinion.
You know, like I said, when it comes to now again, statistically, you're right that Mahomes has not had the best year of his career. And he has some good players on this team. But he's not just putting up the numbers that he used to. And also, real quick, shout outs to Randy here in the chat. And Randy says here in the chat that he is tired of the cheats. He says that Pat Mahomes has become the new QB 12.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Randy Gyron, congratulations on your Ohio State Buckeyes last night.
Yes. Yep, they beat the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in the national championship game, 34-23. And it is going to be interesting to see what happens with the Chiefs this Sunday. Because, as we all know, and this is where before we get to that game, Travis Kelce also had a great game in this game. Touchdown in this game, 5 catches, over 100 yards, and a TD. Travis Kelce doing Travis Kelce things. That's why I said he reminds me of Gronkowski. I said that to you on the phone a couple of days ago. I said he reminds me of Gronkowski in the playoffs because where you make your bread and your butter is where it matters the most now, and that's the playoffs. But moving on to the Bills and to the Ravens, because that is who the Chiefs was waiting to find out who they're going to face. And the Buffalo Bills faced the Baltimore Ravens in snowy Buffalo. And this game, just like the Eagles game, had everything and then some. Josh Allen was making Josh Allen plays. Lamar Jackson responded, made Lamar Jackson plays. And then there was the turnovers that reared its ugly head for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson with an interception. Lamar Jackson with a fumble that bounced off his hands. Recovered the ball and then fumbled the ball. And then they had to play, catch up. They couldn't really get into their groove of running the ball, early on. And I really think that's what hurt Baltimore in this game was that they were trying to run the ball or they were not running the ball enough, because, Derrick Henry, as we all know, Derrick Henry is that 1-2 punch with Lamar Jackson. When they're running the ball together, they're hard to stop. But I really think that since it was snowing in this game, I really think that they got away from their usual game plan, and I think the weather maybe played a role in it, but I think the great players will find a way. Again, back to Barkley. Barkley made those multiple incredible touchdown runs, for Philadelphia in that game against the Rams early on in the day. But the fact that Baltimore at times in this game got frustrated and was letting the game and the pressure get to him. Especially Mark Andrews said, we'll get to him. We'll get to him. Josh Allen in this game made some great plays, like I said. Shakir making some great catches. James Cook running the ball, doing great. Kincaid making some good catches. You name it. Josh Allen may not have the multitude of weapons that he has had over the last couple of years, such as a Gabe Davis or a Stephon Diggs. This was the first year that he did not have any one of those players with him, and yet Josh Allen still went out there and played a great game. Played a phenomenal game. Did not turn the ball over. He's done really well at not turning the ball over. He is a very powerful runner. There's times, where he'll run and he's so hard to take down because he's such a physical quarterback, a physical running quarterback. I mean, just plays the game great. Great guy. He's a great player. I'm happy for the guy. And then the one thing that I said to you guys on the show last week, that I felt bad for these two teams, because it's a shame that this was not for the AFC Championship, because this could have been for the Super Bowl, going to the Super Bowl. But we knew going into this game that there was going to be a losing team, obviously. And more than likely, that was going to be because of either mistakes or plays not being made. But it turns out that both of that happened for the Ravens. Joey, any thoughts on this game?
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody knew that going into this game, the Bills and the Ravens, it was going to be an absolute shootout, and it was not going to be a repeat of that horrendous Week 4 performance in which the Ravens walloped over the Bills and Josh Allen by a score of 35-10. Everybody knew that wasn't going to be like that. But these two superstars, or these two teams, they gave it their all whenever they needed to the most.
They did.
And Josh Allen, once again, proved that he belongs in the upper echelon of the AFC quarterback division. But Lamar Jackson, he definitely has some promise too. He definitely shows some promise too. But, I mean, Mark Andrews, that's just rough, man.
Oh,
I mean, you literally had the ball in your hands, but dropped it.
and not just that, but the fumble early on in Buffalo territory at the 41-yard line. A great catch. Wide open. Wide open. Then he fumbled the ball.
Yep.
And then, like you just alluded to, the drop pass. Yeah, Lamar Jackson made critical mistakes during the first half, but he didn't make a single mistake the rest of the way.
Nope.
But I really think, and I'll ask you this, would you agree that their offense was a little out of sync in this game because of the weather?
Well, it did look a little out of sync, but not by much. Because regardless, Derrick Henry was still able to put up some great numbers. And Lamar Jackson was able to make some great throws, and most of his receivers were able to bring in some good catches. Even though they didn't have his number one wideout, Zay Flowers, I mean, Baltimore still did a pretty decent job keeping Buffalo in check for most of the game. But it's just right there at the end, Josh Allen proved why, as I mentioned, he's in that upper echelon of quarterbacks in the AFC. I mean, the AFC is full of top-notch quarterbacks. Mahomes, Jackson, Burrow, Herbert, Jackson, Allen. I mean, so many great quarterbacks in the AFC. And I knew, just like everybody knew, that this was going to be a shootout from the word go. But at the end of the day, somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. And that's all there is to it.
Crazy. It's crazy how this game happened, because this was a dogfight. This was a boxing bout, a heavyweight style boxing match between two heavyweight contenders that were trying to better the other and throw haymaker after haymaker. I mean, Lamar Jackson led an incredible drive in that fourth quarter early on to score the touchdown to get to within two. But I'm going to be honest with you, Joey. If it would have been me, I would have not gone for two. I would have kicked the point, because if let's just say, if the Bills would have kicked the field goal or if they would have not kicked, a field goal or had any other points the rest of the way, Baltimore scores that touchdown in the late stages of the fourth quarter, they are up. They're up. And they're not having to rely on a 2-point conversion to even tie the game. Very, very critical mistakes that the Ravens made during this game to lose this game. And I also mentioned before that there were some very bad calls, such as that pass interference call that was called on Baltimore to continue the Buffalo drive. I mean, that wasn't even close. It continued the Buffalo drive in the first half, and it was a bad call. It was a bad call. And I think that the Ravens got a little frustrated during that first half because they were turning the ball over and they were getting a little frustrated and not playing their usual game. But they hung in there and they made some plays. But they didn't make all the necessary plays to win the game. And you alluded to it, Joey. Mark Andrews dropping a wide open 2-point conversion that would have tied the game and more than likely would have sent the game into overtime. But all game long, the Ravens defense did not stop Allen in the Bills offense. Josh Allen and that Bills offense got whatever they wanted and then some. And the Bills hung on to beat Baltimore in a close game, 27-25. It was a game for the ages. Really competitive game, really good game. Felt bad for the Ravens fans that I know. I feel bad for the Ravens fans. I feel bad for the Lions fans. That we're hoping that these two teams are going to make significant pushes to the championship game. But that's the nature of the beast. That's sometimes how the ball bounces. Sometimes that it happens. You have to come through in the clutch when it matters the most, when the games are on the line, when the chips are on the table, when the pressure is so crazy in your face. You got to rise above to the occasions and make the necessary plays. And the Ravens, they didn't make enough. And that is why the Buffalo Bills, for the 4th time in 5 years, for the 2nd time since the pandemic, they will be in the AFC Championship game facing the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. And it will be interesting to see how this goes. It will be interesting to see how these two games go this weekend. And again, folks, we are live here on YouTube.com on a cold, frigid night here for another edition of our Nation Sports Show. I'm your host for this evening, Stephen Wyand, joined by JT, Joey Thornton, and unfortunately, due to not feeling well, Ezra is not here, and we hate that Kevin is not here because his family is dealing with being sick and all of that. And Hijacker, we don't know if he's going to be joining us as well, but maybe he'll pop on. Who knows? But again, we are live here on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at ON_Sports Show, Facebook.com/Nation Sports Show, where we are live right now at YouTube.com/Nation Sports Show. Be to like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and please stay warm. And you can also follow the Nation's Corner on Twitter at Nation's Corner, Facebook.com/Nation's Corner, and we're there live on YouTube.com/The Nation's Corner. Be sure to join the guys and gal at YouTube.com/The Nation's Corner for wrestling coverage on all things professional wrestling. And this past weekend, TNA Genesis took place in Texas. It was a phenomenal pay-per-view. And Monday Night Raw on Netflix last night took place, and that was another great show. 3 weeks in a row, I've been loving the Netflix era of WWE, and it continues to get better and better and better week after week. And we shall see what happens in the world of wrestling as we are starting to make the turn to the Royal Rumble. The Rumble is next Saturday on the 1st of February, and Saturday night main event is this Saturday in San Antonio. Highlighted by Jey Uso versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight title. And Braun Breaker putting on his IC title against him.
Highlighted by a special contract signing that's going to take place between Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes that's going to be moderated by San Antonio's favorite golden child, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Yep. Yes, indeed. And I guess while we are at it, we will get to our scores for the conference championship games.
Yep, it is Championship Sunday after all. I mean, there's only 4 teams left standing, but only 2 tickets will be punched to the Super Bowl.
Yep, and up first, it will be the Washington Commanders facing the Philadelphia Eagles on the road.
Now, I will go ahead and get things started off with Ezra's score. He has the Commanders over the Eagles 24-20. With a side note, he said the Eagles' offense is too suspect, and Jaden Daniels and company are playing on a different level right now. Hurts had that leg rolled up on this past week, so we will see how that goes as well.
Yes, we will. To me, this game is going to be very interesting to see how this pans out. It is such a tough game to call because, like I said to you when you called me after the game was over, I said these 3 things. Round 3, fight. Because how fitting it is the third matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders, but it's time for all the marbles to go to the Super Bowl. Either Philadelphia will be to their second Super Bowl in the last couple of years, or the Commanders will punch their ticket to their first Super Bowl since 1992. And it will be very fascinating to see how this game goes. And Kevin right now is sending me his score, so I'm waiting for his score. But before he gives me his scores, I will give you my score for this game. And look, I think that this game is going to be very competitive. I think that these 2 teams are very evenly matched. But the one concerned, I think that my one main concern, Joey, for this team, for Washington, is their defense. Because, yeah, at times they are good. But then there's times they make mistakes. And I think Jaden Daniels is going to have a very good game. Let me get to his scores. I think he's got them. Yep, he's got them. Okay, so Kevin sends to me. He wants it to be the Bills and the Commanders, but his realism football knowledge says, and there's his scores. Alrighty then. So before I get to my score, Kevin has the Eagles beating the Commanders by the score of 27-23. Now back to me. I think that Saquon Barkley is going to have another great game. I think that Hurts is going to make some plays, but I don't think he's going to be an X factor. I don't trust Jalen Hurts right now. Because and Ezra said also as well that Hurts was dealing with that injury that he suffered when he got rolled up against the Rams. So we'll see if that nagging injury, I think, was it his leg or something? His ankle? I think it was
his leg.
His leg, yeah. We'll see if that leg injury plays a role in this game. But no matter what, I mean, I so badly want to pick Washington because it's a hell of a story. My heart says Washington, but like Kevin, my gut says Philadelphia because I really want the Commanders to go to do this because I can't stand the Eagles, but my gut, my football brain is saying Philadelphia is going to pull this off. But it's not going to be an easy game. I think Philly is going to make just enough plays to win this game. But I think this game is going to go into overtime. And here's my scenario. Philadelphia is up 24-17, late stages in the fourth quarter, and Jaden Daniels does it again. A touchdown to tie the game and send the game into overtime. And I think that this game is going to be very interesting. I think that, okay, because correct me if I'm wrong, in the overtime sessions, in the playoffs, both teams get an opportunity not only to possess the ball, but obviously if you score a touchdown, the game is not over, right? Or was that only in the Super Bowl?
It depends.
I know in the Super Bowl, if you score a touchdown, the game is not over. I know that.
Well, I mean, in the playoffs, if you score a touchdown first in overtime, it's not over because the other team has possession.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's the whole playoffs.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. So I think that both teams are going to score touchdowns in the fourth quarter, or in overtime, excuse me. But I think Philadelphia is going to make just enough plays to hold off Washington, and I'm going to go with the Eagles to win this game 34-31 in overtime. And like I said, Kevin has the Commanders losing to Philadelphia 27-23.
And what was your score?
34-31 Eagles in overtime.
All right. Well, going into the divisional round, I said it myself. My heart was pulling for the Commanders, but my gut was pulling for the Lions. And sometimes you got to go with your gut. But as we all now know the Commanders played, quite honestly, their best football that I've seen out of them all season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do I think that we have a chance against Philly on Sunday? Absolutely. No doubt in my mind. But we know that going into this game, that the biggest task that we have in front of us that's probably going to prevent us from punching that Super Bowl ticket is being able to stop that running attack of Saquon Barkley. I mean, ever since Saquon Barkley donned the green and white for the Eagles this year, he has been absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. He has broken records. He has made unbelievable plays. Hell, he did a backwards hurdle earlier in the season. There's no doubt in my mind that Saquon Barkley is a true running back. But if I know my Commanders like I think I do, then Dan Quinn and Joe Witt are going to be watching some film. Because behind every star player, regardless, there is a weak spot. And I know that Saquon Barkley has a weak spot. Now, do I know what that weak spot is? No, I don't. But I know there's somebody out there that does. And if it takes watching a buttload of film to find that weak spot, I know that's what Dan Quinn and Joe Witt are going to do. Because those two are defensive masterminds when it comes to a team defense. Now I get it. Our run defense has not looked so good on paper. However, Jahmyr Gibbs going into the game against us last weekend was averaging more than 130 yards on the ground. We held him to just over 100. So technically, we kept him under his average rushing yards per game. And there's no doubt in my mind that if we can apply the pressure on Saquon Barkley like we know we can, yes, he might rip off some good runs here and there, and so might Jalen. But that Eagles offense to me just sounds a little suspect, like Ezra said.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, this is going to be a very tough game. I get that. But the clock has not yet struck midnight for Cinderella.
Mm-hmm.
It has not yet struck midnight. And this Commanders team has really, really impressed me because I did not think they were going to go this far this year. I didn't think they were even going to go to the playoffs. And that is an honest, true statement.
Mm-hmm.
But even though I picked against them in the divisional round, I mean, Steven, you said it yourself. Pull for them all the way because you got nothing left to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. I don't have anything left to lose. Because, I mean, the Commanders have already far exceeded expectations. And there's no doubt in my mind that they can do it again. So with that being said, I'm going for the road team. I'm picking my Commanders.
All right.
Signing with Ezra. I'm signing with Ezra. I think that this is going to be a very hard-fought game. But I think that at the end of the day, Jaden Daniels is going to do just enough to become the first rookie quarterback to win a conference championship and play in a Super Bowl. Because it has to be done eventually. It has to be. And right now, Jaden Daniels is in the best position to do that.
Yes, he is.
So, I am going to go with my Commanders. Like I said, it's going to be a hell of a contest. But I'm going to pick my Commanders. And here's what I think is going to happen. The game is going to be tied at 24. It's going to be tied at 24 going into overtime. The Eagles are going to get the ball first.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go down and kick a field goal to go about 3 points. And then Jaden Daniels is going to take the field and he is going to dominate just like he has all season. Because the guy has had 5 winning drives in the fourth quarter / overtime.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Jaden Daniels is going to guide us down the field. And he's going to throw the game-winning touchdown pass to not Terry McLaurin. He's really going to dig some dirt with this one. Because that game-winning touchdown is going to go to none other than former Philadelphia Eagle Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is going to catch the game-winning touchdown, and the Commanders are going to walk out. The Commanders are going to walk out of Philadelphia as 30-27 winners.
All right.
30-27 in overtime.
Let's hope it happens. Let's hope it happens. And moving on to the AFC Championship game, Arrowhead Stadium, the back-to-back Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, will once again host another AFC title game in Kansas City as Patrick Mahomes leads his team to face Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills and what is for sure to be another one, one for the ages. And before I get to my score and your score, I'll give Kevin's score first. Kevin has a little bit of a note here. He says that the Bills are going to be up 17-0, and the Chiefs are going to make a comeback to win 23-20. Very interesting how Kevin has that playing out. Because to me, before we get to this game with our rest of these scores, I do want to say that this game to me is very interesting because both of these two teams have not played each other on this big of a stage since 2020 during the pandemic year. Now, however, obviously in 2022, the Chiefs beat the Bills in that epic classic in overtime. But that's when the Chiefs had their weapons. Then last season, when they met again in Buffalo, we all thought that was the year that Buffalo was going to vanquish the demon that was Kansas City. But that didn't happen. Wide right. When Bass's kick went right in the snow. Mahomes had a great game in that game on the road. Made a lot of great plays in that game. And the Chiefs won that game. And they shocked and stunned Buffalo. Now, if you're Buffalo, Buffalo has a very interesting scenario on their hands. Because Josh Allen is thinking about this game. And thinking about the moment that is in front of him. Because as we have seen in the postseason, Josh Allen has made plays, and there's times where he hasn't made plays. Because there has been times where he has made critical mistakes, or his receivers have literally dropped the ball. A la Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, last year when Stephon Diggs was still with the Bills. He catches that pass, it's going to be down to the Chiefs, what was it like, 40-something yard line or whatever it was. But Josh Allen is very motivated this year, go around, I think. He is still chasing the ghosts of Mahomes because he is after what Mahomes already has. And that's multiple rings. Because Josh Allen knows my legacy is on the line. I'm chasing Mahomes. I want what he has. I want what he wants. I want my first Super Bowl championship. I want to be the one to lead Buffalo to their first Super Bowl in franchise history. Their first Super Bowl appearance since when they went to 4 Super Bowls in a row when they lost all 4 in a row. Can't even believe that. Like, it's a crazy statistic that Buffalo went to 4 Super Bowls in the 90s and lost all 4. Or for being technical, it wasn't 4 in a row. It was 90, 91. Then the one against the Cowboys, which was in 93. And then the Niners took on the Chargers. And then it was the next year when they lost their 4th one in 95 against the Cowboys. But before we give our scores, and Ezra's score, what are your thoughts on this game? Like, what is your analysis of this game? Because to me, there's a lot on the line for both of these teams.
Yeah, there definitely is a lot on the line for these teams because Josh Allen is definitely an elite quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt in my mind. And yes, he hasn't really had a number one receiver this season. But in all actuality, Josh Allen really hasn't needed it. Because he has still put up some of the best stats that he has ever had in a single season in this season in his NFL career. I mean, Josh Allen has scrambled more. He has put passes right on the money whenever he needed to. And Josh Allen is definitely an elite quarterback. I mean, this is the best quarterback play that Buffalo has seen since the Jim Kelly days back in the 90s, like you mentioned earlier, Steven, with those 4 Super Bowl trips. Patrick Mahomes, on the other hand, the man's already created a true legacy. The man's already created a true dynasty. I mean, he's won 3 Super Bowls already, including 2 in a row. And he has quickly drawn comparisons to what Tom Brady has done in all of his years as a New England Patriot / Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And these two, they know each other so well because they face each other in the regular season on occasions, but most of the time, whenever their two paths cross, it is usually in the playoffs. Now, Mahomes, he always finds some way to work his playoff magic. But as I mentioned earlier, sometimes dynasties are meant to fall. Dynasties and legacies, or not really legacies, but dynasties are meant to come crashing down back to earth on occasions. So this is definitely going to be a hard game. It's going to be a hard game for Josh Allen because he's going to be facing with that hostile Kansas City Chiefs crowd who wants to see a three-peat. But the Super Bowl matchup that everybody wants to see has the Bills on one side and the Commanders on the other side. And quite honestly, that's the Super Bowl matchup I want to see. Because Kansas City winning year in and year out has gotten old. It has gotten old. And with that being said, I'm going to go in and get my pick here. I'm siding with the Buffalo Bills. Because Josh Allen has already beaten Mahomes in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
So Josh Allen knows what it takes to defeat Patrick Mahomes. And there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to dig down deep into his arsenal and find a way to do it again. Because Josh Allen, he needs to stay poised and he needs to stay in the clutch. And if he can do that, he's going to guide Buffalo to the promised land for the first time since the early 1990s. So with that being said, I think Josh Allen is going to guide the Bills to the Super Bowl. And I think the Chiefs dynasty is going to come crashing back down to earth. Buffalo is going to win this game by a final score of 34-30.
Mm. And before, real quick, what's Ezra's score?
Ezra, he's picking the Bills as well. He's going with the Bills 31-27. And his side note says that he thinks the Chiefs are going to have the lead in the first half because of his words, not mine, the bullshit officiating. But it's not going to matter in the end.
Very interesting. And you know what I just thought of? And I hate to speak this into possible existence, but check this out. Oh, sorry, Bills fans, But how fitting would this be? Okay. Let's just throw this hypothetical number out there before I give my score. What if what if the Bills face the Eagles in the Super Bowl, right? If the Bills lose to Philadelphia, then they have lost to every single team in the NFC East in the Super Bowl. How about that one? They lost to the Redskins, they lost to the Giants, and they lost to the Cowboys. Yeah. If that happens, then blame me. Just saying. That just popped in my head. But my score, again, like I said, with the Eagles and the Commanders game, I think my heart says Buffalo, but my football brain and my gut says the Chiefs. I'm going to go with the Chiefs surviving a Buffalo Bills late fourth quarter rally to win a rally attempt to win the game. I think they are going to stop Josh Allen and get this inches from the goal line. I have the Chiefs squeaking out a victory against the Bills. I have the Chiefs winning 27-24. And this is my scenario. The Bills are driving the ball down the field. They are in field goal range. They're in well enough field goal range to win to tie the game and send the game into overtime. My scenario that is playing in my head, I'm thinking that Buffalo is going to say, screw the field goal. We are going to go for the game-winning touchdown in the late stages of the fourth quarter and go for the win. Go big or go broke. And I think Josh Allen is going to have a little bit of pressure in his face. He's going to get pressured by Chris Jones and company, and he's going to start to scramble. He's just about to cross the end zone. And at the last possible second, I'm thinking Trent McDuffie. I'm thinking McDuffie is going to tackle Allen at the 1 yard line and stop him just short of the goal line. And the Chiefs will survive and be in their next Super Bowl and a shot at three-peating. But with that being said, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. I hope that I am wrong. Hopefully this weekend's games will be very, very good. And that nice little segue right here, because I do want to touch upon the college football championship game and just the playoffs overall in general. We talked about this a little bit before, but to me, the first time doing the college football championship, tournament, it's a nice idea, but it needs to be rearranged a little bit. It needs to be better organized as far as records and stuff like that. But the overall games were not good. Even last night's game, with all due respect to Ohio State and their fans, congratulations to the win, you deserved it. But let's be honest, guys, a lot of these games were not good. They were either not watchable or they were hard to get into. And a lot of the games were blowouts. It was just not a good product. And at least for the NFL, we've had some good games this year in the playoffs. The Rams and the Eagles, the Ravens and the Bills. And even though the Commanders and the Lions game turned out to be a 14-point victory, even that was still competitive. because of the upset factor nature of Washington beating the number 1 seed in Detroit. But my goodness, the college football bracket tournament for this year was not a success in my opinion. What are your thoughts? I think that this tournament could have been better, could have been played better. Thought the games could have been better. But it is what it is. Really wasn't that good. Notre Dame made things a little interesting last night in that fourth quarter, but by the end of the third quarter, this game was done. It was done. Ohio State was killing them. And what was so funny during this game, when Notre Dame scored on their first touchdown drive, they were like, "Oh, what a statement drive by the Fighting Irish." Dude, it took 10 minutes to score. Statement drive my ass. That was a methodical drive. A statement drive is about a 2-minute drive. Boom, you're in. Done.
Hey, Stephen, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm gonna have to go ahead and get off here for the night because with it snowing outside, I'm still gonna have to go to work in the morning, so I'm gonna need to get as much sleep as possible tonight because I'm probably gonna need to leave a little bit earlier than I usually.
All right, dude, be safe, man.
All right, peace out, guys. I'm out of here.
Later, dude. Great job by Joey tonight. And I mean, again, just getting back to the playoffs. It was not competitive. Just the overall vibe of the games. Like, it wasn't compelling to watch. It wasn't compelling really to tune into because a lot of these games were they weren't fun. There was only like a couple of games that were tolerable to tune into. But when you see scores like, 28-14 and 35-10 and 40-something to 20-something, yawn, boring. Sorry. Nothing against Ohio State. They beat the teams that were supposed to beat in front of them. But as an overall product, the college football tournament was not a success this year. And hopefully next year, it will be better. Maybe it'll be better. And as far as this weekend goes, I really think that these games are going to be interesting because when you look at what's on the line, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs are on the precipice of history of being the first team to have a shot at three-peating. And they are in this spot for the first time since the San Francisco 49ers were back-to-back champions in 88, 89, and were in the conference title game against the Giants when they lost that game. And they lost, and they didn't make it to the Super Bowl. Now Mahomes and the Chiefs are on the doorstep of history, and they're hosting the conference title game against Josh Allen and the Bills. I really, truly believe that Mahomes and them are going to find a way to win this game. Because they always seem to. They always seem to have the ball bounce their way and things go their way. I do think that this game is going to be competitive. I do think that Travis Kelce is going to have a good game. I do think that Mahomes is going to have a pretty solid game. Where it is going to be interesting for me is the running game. How's Pacheco going to do? How's Kareem Hunt going to do? That Buffalo Bills defense has been very solid. Rock solid. And it's also going to be interesting to see what happens with the Bills offense because as we all know, Josh Allen doesn't have that true number. Well, he has Amari Cooper, but Amari Cooper hasn't done a whole lot of damage, in these playoffs yet. But that very well could change. Who knows? But the way that James Cook is playing, he has played really well for Buffalo rushing the ball. Dalton Kincaid's been a good tight end for Buffalo, making big plays when it matters the most. And Josh Allen, obviously, Josh Allen is Josh Allen. Josh Allen is going to make some freakish plays, I think, in this game to stay competitive. So hopefully the AFC title game is going to be good, and hopefully the NFC title game is going to be good, because that to me is the most wild of wild games that nobody saw coming. None of us had that in our bingo cards. We all thought probably a lot of us thought it was going to be Detroit versus Philadelphia. But the fact that you have Washington in there, house money is on the table. Nobody picked you to be in this spot. Nobody. Even if you are the most loyal of loyal Washington fans that have been with this team for years of having to deal with horrific football teams and all of that. There is no pressure on Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, Robinson, Zach Ertz, and company. They can go out there and play whatever style of football they want. Nobody's picking you. Nobody. But that's okay. Because sometimes the underdog perseveres. And those are the stories in sports that you look forward to the most. And I know that Daniels is going to come out there loose and fancy free and is going to have a ball out there. Enemy territory, Philadelphia, round 3 fight, as they say in Mortal Kombat. You're going to have 2 arch rivals in the NFC East. Sorry, Cowboys, not sorry. Facing each other for the right to call themselves the champions of the NFC Conference. It's going to be a very interesting game. Like I said during our predictions, I really think that Saquon Barkley is going to be the X factor of this game. He is going to be the one that runs Philadelphia into the Super Bowl. I do think even though they had Dallas Goedert, even though they have A.J. Brown, they have Devontae Smith, but Jalen Hurts has not been playing great. And we'll see how that leg feels during the game. And I'm pretty sure we'll hear about reports about his leg as the week progresses to see how he feels going into the championship game on Sunday. But it will be interesting to see what happens on both of these games, because anything and everything will happen. And looking forward to this weekend to seeing how these 2 games go, and hopefully they're really good. Hopefully they're very competitive. Hopefully they're not blowouts. Hopefully they're very entertaining. And we will be back next week to give our analysis of Championship Sunday, and we will begin our previews of the Super Bowl. Who will it be? Will the Chiefs be in another Super Bowl and have a shot at three-peating? Or will the Buffalo Bills knock the Chiefs off their kingdom and be in the Super Bowl for the first time since 1995? We shall see. It will be very fascinating to see what's going to happen. But that's why they play the games. And we'll be tuning in to watch. And we're looking forward to these games this weekend. And thank you to Kevin for sending in me his scores. And hate that Ezra couldn't be here today. Hate the Hijacker couldn't make it tonight. But hopefully Hijacker will be able to make it next week. And hopefully Ezra will be back on with us next week. And hopefully Kevin will be back on with us next week. But looking forward to this weekend and all of that good stuff. And again, our thoughts and our prayers go out to those in the Los Angeles and surrounding areas that are being affected by these wildfires that continue to go on. And very cool what the LA area is going to be doing with this benefit concert, highlighted by performances such as Green Day and the Red Hot Chili Peppers and so on and so forth. I mean, just lots of bands, lots of artists coming together and performing on this for a great cause. And also, before we go off the air, I do want to bring up one of my favorite guitar players and singers of his era, John Sykes. Dude was an incredible vocalist, incredible guitarist. Dude had a sound unlike anybody. Like, his guitar sound was massive. Massive. And I do want to talk about him for a few minutes because, I mean, my God. I mean, his riffs of Still of the Night on the Whitesnake 87 record, just, my God. Bad Boys, just great songs. Great songs that he wrote with Whitesnake, and it's a shame that he recorded only 2 records because he recorded the tracks for the slide it in the record that was released here in the States. Also, there was a slide it in version with a different band in Europe, but he was the one that recorded the guitar parts for the version here in America. But he co-wrote one full record with Whitesnake, and it's a shame that that band did not last with him and David Coverdale, because as we all know, David Coverdale fired the guys in Whitesnake and reformed a different lineup. And then he went on to be in Blue Murder, formed Blue Murder, and had those 2 great records with that group. And he also not to mention he did record the one Thin Lizzy album, Thunder and Lightning, in 1983. And also after his days with Blue Murder and Whitesnake, he also did his own solo project, and he also fronted Thin Lizzy up until 2009 and recorded a great live album called Bad Boys Live. So again, I want to pay tribute to John Sykes, who unfortunately passed away. I believe they said he passed in 24. Just a great guitar player, great musician. Leaves behind a legacy that will stand the test of time. He also was in Tigers of Pantang in the 80s. I mean, and I heard an interview with Marty Friedman today, and Friedman said that he changed the sound of guitars. I mean, those squeals, those pinch harmonics, that stuff that he would do with the guitar. The stuff that Zach is doing, the stuff that Zach Wild popularized in the late 80s, early 90s, that was all John Sykes. That was a John Sykes influence technique. And Zach will tell you that he was influenced by John Sykes. Great guy, great musician, loved his work, no matter what he did. Hell of a talent, hell of a songwriter, an incredible guitarist at writing riffs, crafting melodies, and also those blistering guitar solos. An incredible loss for us music fans that love music. Again, rest in peace to John Sykes. Thank you for creating some great music for us music fans that we will cherish for the rest of our lives. And again, folks, thank you for tuning in tonight here on our Nation Sports Show. Thank you to Joey Thornton for tuning in and hosting with me tonight. Thank you to Kevin and for Ezra sending in their scores, and to everybody out there in North Carolina, South Carolina, Louisiana, and everywhere in between that is being affected by this snowstorm. Stay safe, everybody. And for those that don't know, like we touched upon at the top of the hour, Ben Johnson is the new head coach of the Chicago Bears, and it will be very fascinating to see how he does next season. And Josh McDaniels is returning to the New England Patriots as offensive coordinator, and I don't think that is going to be a success because the Patriots continue to take steps back. Now, like we also touched upon, that Mike Vrabel is the new head coach. Now, I do think that Vrabel, there is at times where he is a decent coach, and then there is at times where he makes very bad mental mistakes. But hopefully Vrabel can not have to deal with a lot of mistakes by McDaniels on this offensive coordinator side of things, because I just don't trust McDaniels anymore, because he's not a very, very good coach. Let's be honest. The only reason why he had any success in New England was because of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. As CM Punk would say, tell me when I'm telling lies. But we will be reporting on other news that break in the NFL next week. Pretty sure there's going to be some coaching vacancies, interviews happening. I know that New Orleans was interviewing their head coaching, or they were going to attempt to do it, but obviously with the incoming snowstorm that came through today, That obviously will not be happening in the next couple of days because of the amount of snow that the state of Louisiana has encountered. Certain counties have encountered 10 inches of snow, and some counties up to 6 inches. So everybody out there, please stay safe. Everybody out there here in the North Carolina, the South Carolina, Florida, Texas, you name it. Everybody that's being affected by this, please stay safe. Please stay warm. Do not go outside if you don't need to. Please stay indoors. Do not put yourself in danger of being out there on the road with these conditions. And again, thank you for everybody tuning in tonight to another edition of our Nation Sports Show. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. You can follow us on Twitter or X at ON_Sports Show, Facebook.com/Our Nation Sports Show, and where we are live on most Tuesday nights. Sometimes we have to flex the show to other nights on the week due to scheduling or whatever we may have going on in our lives. But YouTube.com/Our Nation Sports Show, where we are live on most Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific. And also don't forget to follow the Nation's Corner on Twitter at Nation's Corner, Facebook.com/Nation's Corner, where they are live on most Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific at YouTube.com/The Nation's Corner. Be sure to join the guys and gals. They recap all things professional wrestling, and with WWE on Netflix continuing to put in good numbers, and the shows have been really good for the last couple of weeks after the debut. Thought the debut was really solid. The last 2 weeks have been really, really good. SmackDown is heating up with some of their storylines, like Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. That's very interesting to see what's happening with that as we near the Royal Rumble, and also the Rumble. My God, it is stacked. Cena, Punk, Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Sami Zayn, you name it, Roman Reigns, countless others, and whoever knows, and who also knows will also enter. Because as we all know, when it comes to Rumble time, anything can happen. Anything can happen. And again, thank you to everybody for tuning in tonight. Thank you to Randy for tuning in tonight. Thank you for tuning in, sir. Hopefully you're having a great night. Congratulations to you and William and y'all's Ohio State Buckeyes for winning the national championship last night against the Fighting Irish, 34-23. Thank you to Ezra for sending in his score. Thank you to Kevin for sending in his score. Hopefully these guys will be back with us next week for another edition of our Nation Sports Show. Hate that Kevin's family is dealing with an illness, and Ezra's not feeling good today, and hopefully they will be back with us next week to host our Nation Sports Show and recap Championship Sunday, because as we all know, this football season goes by so fast before you could even blink an eye. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens on Championship Sunday. It'll be interesting to see if the Bills can beat the Chiefs. It'll be interesting to see if the Commanders can pull off the miracle of miracles and shock the NFL world again. But we shall see. We shall see. Will we have a rematch of Super Bowl 57? Or will we have the Bills facing the Eagles, the Bills facing the Commanders, or the Chiefs facing Washington? Who knows? We will have to tune in and find out on Sunday. So with that being said, thank you to everybody for tuning in tonight. Everybody out here on the East Coast, stay warm, stay safe. For Ezra Vickery, for William Gyron, for Ezra Vickery, for Randy Gyron, William Gyron, KR, Kevin Rory, JT, Joey Thornton, Hijacker Mike, and everybody out there in sports land and YouTube land. I've been your host for this evening, Stephen Wyand. Tune in next week to our Nation Sports Show as we wrap up our coverage of the conference title games, and we recap the Championship Sunday games, and we begin our previews of Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, Louisiana. Take care, everybody. Take care of your wild selves. Enjoy the rest of this fine week. Please stay warm. Please stay safe. Enjoy your time with your family and friends. Go out there, make some memories. Enjoy your time. Spend time with the friends and family that you love. Cherish each other. Make memories. Be good to one another. Treat each other wonderful. Be good to yourselves. Help a person in need. And more importantly, be a good person to society. With that being said, for KR, Kevin Rory, JT, Joey Thornton, William Gyron, Ezra Vickery, Hijacker Mike, I've been your host for this evening, Stephen Wyand. Thank you for tuning in this week to another edition of our Nation Sports Show where we cover all things the world of sports. And also, not to mention, the Hall of Fame for the MLB was announced, highlighted by one of the best pitchers in baseball for the Yankees, CC Sabathia. Is going into the Hall of Fame as well. We will recap all things sports next week. Tune in next week as we do what we love to do. That's talking about the world of sports. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your week and upcoming weekend. Peace.
Turn me up.